Okay. So it is an honor to be here with you all again. Like I said, I do see some familiar names and faces, lots of new names and faces as well. So thank you for being here. I'm really excited that you're joining me for this session as we explore how to create Calm the Montessori Way. And we're going to look at how to design what we refer to as peace corners for children. And I love the idea that Dr. Lambert just brought up of how we can extend this concept or this idea as well beyond the classroom into looking at how we might apply some of these principles to our daily lives, maybe work with colleagues or in our relationships, maybe with a significant other, and then also globally. So I will come back and loop back to that concept as well. But before we dive in, I want to share just a few details that define me as the your host today and the creator of this presentation for anyone that's new. My name is Heather White. I'm a former Montessori classroom teacher, administrator, and in-home caregiver with more than 15 years of experience in the world of Montessori. I currently work as an educational coach. I work in multiple roles with the Center for Guided Montessori Studies, including as their alumni, conference, webinar, and professional development coordinator, their accreditation associate, as well as an instructional guide supporting adult learners who are working to receive their Montessori certification. I'm also an adjunct professor at Sarasota University, which is the only fully accredited institution of higher education that's dedicated solely to Montessori. And additionally, I am a blog writer and content creator for several organizations, including the American Montessori Society. I have certifications from the American Montessori Society in the 3 to 6 and 6 to 9 age groups, and also have experience working with the 0 to 3, 9 to 12, and adolescent populations as well. I have a master's in education with a concentration in Montessori studies, an education specialist degree in school psychology, and an anti-bias, anti-racist certificate from the American Montessori Society. And finally, I am nationally certified as a school psychologist and as a Montessori coach. So as we begin, I wanted to take a look at what we will dive into during today's presentation. We're going to start by exploring the philosophical roots of the idea of a peace corner and how that came to be within Montessori pedagogy. And then we'll discover the essential role that these peace areas play in nurturing this idea of inner peace within children and how it empowers them to navigate their emotions independently. I'll then provide some insights into how you might design a peace corner, what these areas look like, and key elements you might want to include. And then we'll discuss some strategies for introducing peace corners to children in a really meaningful way. And not shown here, but I want to add on to this coming from that idea that we were just speaking of. I would love to wrap it up with something that's not in the presentation, with the discussion about how you can take some of these ideas and apply them to other settings and to other roles that we might hold as adults as well. So as we begin our journey today, I wanted to share a quote from Dr. Maria Montessori that will kind of serve as our guiding inspiration for this topic. She says, "Peace is what every human being is craving for, and it can be brought about by humanity through the child." This statement is so profound and reminds us that the foundation of a more peaceful world, which I think, to Dr. Lambert's point, as we were chatting when you all came in, is something that's perhaps more important today than ever, right? And that this idea of creating a peaceful world really begins with the child. That's how we are able to obtain this idea of world peace, is through supporting children and becoming more peaceful. And in Montessori education, we recognize that children aren't just passive recipients of knowledge, right? They're not just learning things from the all-knowing that we are as adults, right? It shifts that idea, and we recognize that children are active builders and that they really are playing a powerful role in creating a more compassionate, harmonious future by respecting or fostering their respect, fostering empathy in children, and this deep sense of connection to their classrooms, their peers, the world at large. Maria Montessori talks about this idea of global citizenship, of recognizing your place in the world. Doing that in our classrooms and in our homes help children develop the social and emotional skills that they need to cultivate this sense of peace. And this sense of peace is not just with others, it's within themselves, it's with their communities, and ultimately with the world, right? So, as we explore ways that we can nurture kindness and cooperation and this sense of inner calm in really young children, I want you to keep this lesson and this idea in mind that every uh, opportunity to present what we call grace and courtesy in Montessori, that social skills, manners, every lesson that we present in this area, every moment of patience that we are able to embody and to model for children, and every act of understanding where we show them that we acknowledge them, we see them, really is contributing to shaping a generation that's able to bring about this true and lasting peace. And so that's what we're trying to accomplish through our conversation today about creating peace corners. So let's embark on this meaningful work together. So, first, where does this idea come from? Dr. Maria Montessori was a really passionate advocate for world peace, believing that education was the key to fostering a more harmonious society. She saw children as the foundation of a more peaceful world and emphasized that if we nurtured respect, empathy, cooperation in young children, we were able to create this ripple effect that extends beyond just to them, right? To their interactions with others in their classroom, but then beyond that as well to the entire world. So peace education is really deeply woven into the Montessori curriculum. It begins with creating this environment of mutual respect where children learn how to navigate conflict or resolve conflict with one another. They develop emotional regulation skills and also cultural appreciation, this awareness of how the world works, um, the values that other people hold true, the way people dress, the food that they eat, and this really deep appreciation for those things. Not just an acknowledgement, but this really deep sense of appreciation. Through those grace and courtesy lessons we were talking about, that those manners and social skills, we help children develop the skills that they need for these peaceful interactions. And then cosmic education, which is a framework in Montessori for introducing what you might think of as more history, geography, science lessons. We call that cosmic education. It fosters this overall impression of the interconnectedness of all living things. It helps a child to see their role in this larger global community. And then finally, what we call practical life activities. These are activities of daily life. It might be caring for oneself, how to brush your hair, how to get dressed, how to pour yourself a drink, caring for others, right? How to show kindness, hold the door for someone. And then also care for the environment, how to clean up after yourself, recycling. All of these things also reinforce this idea that peace begins with us. Peace begins with this idea of personal responsibility. I play a key role in creating a more peaceful world. And so Maria Montessori's vision for peace isn't just an abstract ideal, it's really a daily practice. It's embedded in every single lesson that we present to children, every single material or work that's out on the shelf that they're using and exploring, and every interaction within the classroom and really beyond the classroom as well, right? And it's by cultivating this inner peace within children that we're laying that foundation, like I was saying before, right, for a more peaceful world. And peace corners are just one way, one simple way that we can start to do that work. So then what are peace corners? Peace corners are also often referred to as calming corners, cool down corners, maybe a safe space, a cozy space. Like I said, in Montessori, we really emphasize this idea of peace. And so that's why we often refer to them as peace corners. And they're centerpieces of Montessori classrooms and homes. They're in Montessori homes as well, all over the world. They're areas that are designed to provide this safe space for children who are experiencing really big emotions or who might be overwhelmed by external stimuli in their environment. It gives them this space for solitude and this privacy that they're seeking. It's also a space where children can come together. And it might be a child and an adult as well, but often it's more than one child. In the home, it might be a sibling, but it's a space where children can work together to solve their conflicts in a really amicable way. And I think it's important to note that, especially for young children, since they often need help regulating their emotions, right? Learning what that looks like, co regulation is a necessity, and that connection is really vital. So, for a young child who's going through the stages of emotional development, peace corners can also be used as a space where the adult can assist the child and learning how to navigate their emotions. They can provide them that security and that comfort during those moments of emotional regulation. So they kind of are there for the child, let them know that it's a safe space, right? Because the children are looking to us for those cues. So if we let them know it's a safe space, we demonstrate or model how we might use some of the things in that space to help us calm. And then the child learns to do so as well, and then can begin to do it more independently. So, like I was saying, peace corners are a really vital component of a Montessori environment. They give children this space to pause, to reflect, to regain a sense of inner calm. They're really thoughtfully prepared areas that aren't about isolation, right? It's not about what you might think of when you hear the word corner, right? You think of maybe like a timeout corner, like it's for a punishment. It's not about a punishment. It's not about isolating a child. It's really about connection. It's about giving children the space that they need to work through their emotions, giving them the tools and support that they need to learn how to regulate those emotions in a really healthy way. And when it's paired with the presence of that calm, attuned adult, like we were just discussing, whether that's a parent, an educator, a caregiver, then the Peace Corner becomes this space for co regulation as well. We might go through gentle guidance of deep breathing exercises, quiet conversations, and that's how we help them learn how to navigate those big emotions. We model those self regulation strategies for them that they'll start to internalize, right? And that's the process where this sense of safety, trust, and connection is built, and that children learn how to use the Peace Corner. Once they've experienced that modeling and co regulation, they gain the confidence and skills to be able to explore the area independently. They start to engage in those self regulation activities on their own. They might listen to calming music, read a book, maybe use some mindfulness cards to lead them through mindfulness activities. They might practice deep breathing. Maybe there's a yoga mat there with cards for yoga poses and they do some yoga. But it's really about building this resilience and giving them this deeper awareness of themselves, of their emotions that helps them restore their own inner peace and then return to the environment, whether that's the classroom or the home, with this renewed sense of balance when they're ready. So it gives them a lot of autonomy and gives them a space where they can go when things are just feeling a little overwhelming to kind of take a breath and reset. And I know I said we were going to get to it at the end, but if you think about that idea, right, in our interactions with as adults with our significant others, coworkers, even countries, right? We're thinking if we're thinking globally, to just be able to say, "Hey, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed or I'm feeling frustrated. I'm kind of angry. Um, things are getting a little heated. Let's step away, take a breath, do some of these things, right? And then we'll come back together when we're both feeling a greater sense of balance. If we were able to do that, wow, what a more peaceful world we would have, right? So that's how you can kind of think about how some of these ideas might translate into a broader sense as well. So, like I was saying, what we really want to create through with Peace Corners are this safe, private space. It's not a place for a punishment or a timeout. We can gently remind children that the Peace Corner is there when they're demonstrating heightened emotions, right? But it should always be their choice. We might say something like, "It looks like you're feeling really frustrated. Remember, we have a peace corner if you would like to go, sit and take some deep breaths." But if the child says no, we respect that, right? Because we really want it to be a place that they want to go to for that safety and security. And we really want to ensure that it remains a supportive tool for their self regulation rather than a consequence, something that they want to avoid that feels punitive, because then they're not going to be able to get the benefit from the space as it was intended. We want to make sure that peace corners include sensorial elements that help bring comfort and security to children, things that help them find their inner calm, right? For us as adults, we might be able to do that without anything else. We might be able to close our eyes. Imagine we're somewhere, Dr. Lambert and I were talking before you came in about really just the peace that nature brings, right? Maybe we close our eyes and envision we're sitting on the beach somewhere, or we're looking at a beautiful mountain. We're able to do that. We've learned how to do that, but children often aren't able to do that on their own and need some support. And so it's really about giving them the tools to help them in that process. So, for instance, a chair with soft cushions that gently sways, or maybe a cozy pillow or a blanket. Many peace corners also include items that help the child to acknowledge and validate their emotions. Things like a feelings chart or books about different feelings and emotions. In the home setting in particular, it can be really empowering to allow children to help choose items that bring them a sense of calm, right? Items that they decide should be there, that they enjoy. This not only helps it feel more special, but it gives the child a sense of ownership over the space and the items within it. Obviously, this is a little harder in a classroom setting where you have, multiple children, let's say 20 plus, at least here in the States, is pretty typical. Um, to invite 20 plus children to bring something to the area might make it feel a little crowded and overstimulating, but perhaps it's a conversation you have, right? We talk about class and community meetings in Montessori. So maybe you have a community meeting and you say, we're going to design our peace corner. And so we're going to brainstorm some things that we might have in the area. And then we'll go through, maybe you go through and vote, right? And the top 10 items find their way into the peace corner. But again, it's about making it feel special and also helping children have that connection, that sense of ownership over the space that's going to encourage them and motivate them to use it. Some common features or items that are found in peace corners. We talked about a cozy chair, right? Pillows, blankets. You might also have dim lighting. Maybe it's in an area of your home or of the classroom that the lighting's a little bit calmer, not overhead fluorescent lighting. Maybe there's a little lamp. Um, we talked about emotions charts or books about feelings. You might include a sand timer that children use. Here in this photo, you can actually see it's not a sand timer, it's more of like a bubble timer. Um, but maybe they're using that to help them learn how long they need to practice deep breathing, right? I'm going to practice my deep breathing, or I'm going to sit and practice mindfulness or meditate until the timer is up. It's not so much about stay here until the timer is over, or um, that you're telling the child that, or even that they're telling themselves that, because then it becomes too structured. They don't have that ownership, or it becomes punitive, right? If you're saying, go to the peace corner and stay until the timer is over, you've taken that autonomy away from the child. And so they're less likely to want to go back. Some other things you might see are squishy balls, sensory bottles or glitter jars, things that children can watch or touch that bring them a sense of sensory calm. Calming scented flowers or plants like lavender are great that children can smell. Child-sized or a tabletop Zen garden. This was really popular in my elementary classroom. The children loved placing the rocks and raking the garden. A mirror is great so children can see their facial expressions when they're upset or frustrated. If you have that feelings chart or books about feelings, they can practice seeing what these different facial expressions look like so that they can acknowledge them and have this greater awareness when their peers are demonstrating these emotions as well. Paper and crayons are great for younger children, especially those who are artistic, to draw their feelings. You might have sensory toys for chewing if it's in a home environment. Chewing is really soothing to a lot of children. We talked about yoga cards and a yoga mat. Sound blocking headphones or headphones with a calming music or white noise can be really helpful. And then a child-sized handheld windmill is great as well. That helps children practice those deep breathings as they blow on the windmill. These are some really great books that you might have in a calming corner. And I have to share, I love books. I am an avid reader myself. I loved reading aloud to children. So this was something that I really focused on in the peace corners that I set up in my classrooms. So there's some different books here. I want to highlight I Offer You Peace. That's this book here. Was written by Montessori and Eileen Wolf. It's really a peace pledge that children can recite individually or as a class. There's a lot of Montessori schools that start with this every morning as a really great way to kind of set the tone for the day. Our Peaceful Classroom was also written by Eileen Wolf and was illustrated by Montessori students from schools around the world, depicting different images and visuals of peace. I Am Peace here, down at the bottom, is mindfulness strategies for children. So if you're looking at incorporating that mindfulness practice into the Peace Corner, that's a great way to help children learn about that in an age appropriate way. And then I really love this book, A Little Peace, that was created by National Geographic. Um, this, along with A Little Book of Peace here at the top, have really beautiful drawings, illustrations, and the National Geographic are real life images of things that bring peace. So sitting by a pond, flowers, doves. It's kind of like that idea of, like I was saying, imagining yourself being by the water at the beach and hearing the ocean and smelling the sea breeze. It gives children that same ability to envision themselves somewhere, to see these beautiful images if they're not yet able to do that on their own, right? Maybe they haven't reached that level of abstraction. It gives them images to be able to do that. These are some other popular books about feelings that you could include in a peace corner. So we have two different types of books here. We have the books about peace itself, right? And mindfulness practices. And now these are about emotions and feelings. Children that I've worked with really love Glad Monster, Sad Monster. They like the silly faces. And you can actually, it's a little hard to see here, but the eye holes are open. So children can hold the book up and look through it as well. So they really love that more interactive component where they pretend to have these different emotions and feelings and practice them. Young children respond really well to books like Making Faces and Little Faces, Big Feelings because they have images of real children expressing a variety of emotions. And for really young children, that grounding them in reality with pictures of real people is helpful in understanding emotions and what those emotions look like, right? I also wanted to point out the book here, My Body Sends a Signal. This is a really great book to help children start to learn what your body feels like when you experience different emotions. For instance, you might start to feel hot or like your face gets really hot when you're angry or embarrassed. That you might have this funny feeling, this uneasy feeling in your stomach when you're nervous. So helping children understand what some of those body signals are so that they're able to recognize them when they come about in their own bodies. Probably one of the most common books about peace that's found in a Montessori classroom and a Montessori home is called The Peace Rose. It's the reason that there's often a rose or another type of flower or object in Montessori Peace Corner to help children with navigating conflict resolution. So I wanted to take a few moments to allow you to hear this really powerful story so you could understand what the Peace Rose is all about and how children use it. And it looks like it's going to play an advertisement, so give me 1 second.
The Peace Rose, written and illustrated by Alicia Olson. In a special place in our room, we have a peace rose. When we have a problem, the rose helps us talk about our feelings. Once, John and William both started to paint at the same time. They went to get the peace rose and they took turns talking. William, I felt sad when you wanted to paint at the same time. Please let me go first. Okay, John, I'm sorry. Please tell me when you're finished. Friends. Another time, Hannah took Jacob's block. He said, "You're not my friend anymore." She went to the peace shelf to get the rose and they took turns talking. Jacob, I felt hurt when you said you are not my friend anymore. Please don't say that. Okay, Hannah, but I felt angry when you grabbed my block. Please ask first. Friends. You can even solve a problem without using a rose, like the time Heather pushed Jackie. The two girls took turns talking. Heather, I felt mad when you pushed me. Please keep your hands to yourself. Okay, Jackie. I'm sorry. Friends. Thank you for listening to the story. I hope you're having a good time, and I hope that you remember about solving problems, using words, not hands. Please.
All right, I'm going to stop it there. Hopefully you were able to see, hopefully you enjoyed that, and hopefully you were able to see how it helps children who need something more concrete right? With the peace rose, the peace object. In some classrooms, it's a different object. Navigate these conflict resolutions, right? It helps them understand how to take turns while discussing a problem, to give space for the other person to share how they're feeling, how to acknowledge someone's feelings and validate them, how to share your own feelings, and how to come to some kind of resolution together. And you can see in that last example how it really is a tool to help children learn how to go through this experience. And the goal is to get to a place where this object is no longer needed, right? It's just like in Montessori lessons with materials, with academic concepts, it's about providing a concrete way to help children navigate a more abstract process. Let's So then, how can we introduce these spaces to children, right? We have them set up, and then what does that look like? We want to make sure that we take time to explain how children can use the space. We might say something like, this is the new peace corner we set up. You can come here when you're feeling mad or sad, if you just want some time to yourself, or when you need to solve a problem with someone. We want to talk about the different items that are in this space, and we want to model and demonstrate how we use them and how they help calm our minds and our bodies. So we can show them different activities that they could do while they're in the peace corner. Things like raking the sand in the Zen garden, like we talked about, listening to that calming music or white noise, reading the books that are there, practicing those facial expressions in the mirror, breathing exercises, yoga and stretching, blowing that windmill or a feather, singing quietly, that artistic component, coloring, drawing, finger painting. And in Montessori, another thing that we do is called the silence game, how to make silence. And so we can show them how that can also be helpful for regaining this sense of inner peace, is to just to sit and to be silent and to listen to things in the environment. It really is a very basic mindfulness activity for children where you just practice silence, and it really grounds them and helps them develop this awareness and presence in the space. So, as we started with the presentation talking about how peace is needed now more than ever, and how children are the path there, that social emotional development and well being for children are really essential in setting that foundation, establishing that foundation. And so, young children need our help to build strategies to start to develop self awareness and these self regulation skills. And a Peace Corner provides a dedicated space where children can practice these skills. It helps them navigate their emotions in a healthy way. And as the adult, we can easily create these spaces to support a child's emotional growth. I want to really emphasize that it doesn't have to be a corner, right? I think sometimes we get caught up on that idea. It could be a small table. There's environments at homes and classrooms where it's just a little table that's set up, where you might have a mindfulness book and some kind of little basket with objects, like some of these objects we talked about, the squishy balls, the sand timer, glitter jar. But really, it's about giving children a space that they can go when they're feeling overstimulated, that they can practice these self regulation strategies, and they can start working on building their inner calm so that their interactions with others are more peaceful. And that could be their classmates, the adults in their lives, the world at large, right? And as we're closing, I'm going to go here to my last slide. I just wanted to loop back to that initial idea we talked about, right? Of how you can extend these principles, this idea of a peace corner outside of the classroom, outside of just thinking about children. And really what this means, how we can harness some of this potential ourselves as adults, right? Is to have these safe spaces, these cozy corners for ourselves. Think about a place in your home or a place in your workplace that you can go where you can take a few deep breaths, where you can do some yoga, where you can sit in the sunshine, right? And find this sense of inner calm. We're a lot, it's a lot easier for us as adults to take these strategies on the go, if you will, right? For children, they need that concrete idea of a space to do this to help them build the skills. But as adults, we can really practice these strategies anywhere. Maybe you're, traveling on a train to work or on an airplane and you're just feeling a little overwhelmed, a little overstimulated by everything that's going on. Put on some headphones and listen to some white noise. Close your eyes and envision being on that beach like we talked about. Read a book if you really enjoy reading, draw or do writing. But it's about finding ways and moments that are overwhelming or overstimulating that you can find a sense of inner calm, so that you're then able to interact with others, to interact with the world at large in a more peaceful way. And person by person, if we do that, that is really the path towards world peace, right? That's how we get this idea of engagement from one country to another becoming more peaceful and amicable, is focusing on starting with ourselves, right? It's that ripple effect.